I'm now delighted to invite Dr. Babu Narayanan, Senior Principal Scientist at GE Global Research. Dr. Narayanan has been with GE for the last 10 years in various technical and management roles, working closely with the healthcare and transportation businesses. His interests are primarily in the area of application of advanced analytics and computing to solve challenging business problems and developing predictivity solutions on the Predix platform. Babu has a BTech in CS from IIT Madras and a PhD from the Current Institute in New York University. Prior to GE, he worked at Qualcomm, Xerox, Affymetrix. Before starting his career with HSBC in 1991, Simon was a teacher at the Norwegian School of Economics and Business Administration in Oslo, where he also studied and graduated with the Masters of Science in Business. Mr. Babu Narayanan.
All right. Hey, thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. I'm extremely, happy to be here today to talk to you about the industrial internet, the Internet of Things, and how at GE we are trying to create value by connecting, machines, people, and data. Over the last 20 years, we have seen the world being transformed by the consumer internet. Now, that's very clear to us. We think that the possibility for the next 20 years is probably even bigger with what we call the industrial internet. We estimate that maybe about 50 billion devices will come online by 2020. 50 billion devices. And these devices are creating so much data that's going to dwarf all the data that's being created by the consumer internet. How do we extract value from this? Over the next few minutes, I would like to talk to you about what are some of the forces that are shaping this? What's making it happen? We heard some of it already from Ravi. And what are some of the things that we can do to create value? How are we actually generating the value? Those are things that most of you will be very interested in. And how at GE we are going about trying to do it. Okay? Won't spend too much time on this. Ravi already talked about a lot of this. The four primary things that we think of apart from innovative business models. Machines or devices are getting connected to the net. Already talked about the very large number of those. Machines are getting smarter. Machines are being equipped with, low-cost, high-quality sensors that are producing massive amount of data. And then there is a secret sauce of the algorithms that are going to extract value from this data. Put all these four things together, you have the industrial internet. When you combine it with the right business models. Okay? So what's the value that we are trying to create? I'll talk about a few specific, case studies or use cases. But at the top level, we like to think of it in terms of the power of 1%. GE is a large company. We operate in, very, very large industries. Aviation, rail, healthcare, power, water, oil and gas. These are all very, very large industries. And then, of course, there are many more other industries outside. All of these are large. And if you can extract an extra 1% of value from any of these industries, that's a lot. So take, for example, healthcare. I don't think anybody is going to say that our healthcare system is optimal, right? There's a lot of inefficiency. And if we can use interesting technology with interesting business models to get an extra 1%, can we avoid waiting for 2 hours to wait, for an MRI scan? Can we optimize bed assignment in hospitals so, patients don't need to wait? Can we set it up so that when somebody is discharged from the hospital, they don't come back within the next 30 days? Can we catch outbreaks early? Can we manage lifestyle diseases like diabetes a lot better than today? If we can do that, then we'll definitely get the 1%. That's going to give you a lot of value. That's not just about healthcare. You can do the same thing with rail. The freight system, all over the world, I would say, the freight systems run at extremely low average velocity. If you can take the average velocity of a rail freight network by a few percentage points, you're going to haul so much more tonnage across the network, that's going to be a lot of value, right? Very large industry, you just want to get a little bit extra. But getting that little bit extra is not easy, but I think the forces are all there to make that happen today. And this is true across all the industries. I won't, talk about this very much, but I'll get into some specific details over there. Now, before I get into that, I'd like to spend a minute, on some key enablers. all of us here are familiar with Moore's law and exponential technologies. Compute, storage, and bandwidth have been doubling roughly year over year for quite some time. The way I like to think about it is, imagine that you have a ladder from the Earth to the moon, and imagine that every step on that ladder is twice as big as the previous step. Then you can cover about 500,000 kilometers from the Earth to the moon in a mere 43 steps. Right? That's the power of exponentiation. That's why the smartphone that you're holding in your hand today is probably more powerful than the supercomputer of 35 years ago. Now imagine what that phone will be 20 years from now. What happens when you have that kind of power at your disposal? But it's not only about hardware, it's a combination of hardware, software, the massive data that's coming online, and the algorithms. Right? The amount of data that we are creating is going up exponentially, year over year. Just on a power plant today, we look at trillions of samples being collected every year. And as we add more and more sensors to it, the amount of data coming from that is going to be so much more. How do we harness that? How do we create value? We need new technologies, on the analytics side, especially to, understand the data and get the value out. So at GE, we have been building, a platform. We call it Predix. It's one platform that is used across GE, across all our businesses, whether it's healthcare, oil and gas, power, or rail. And this is a platform that we will deploy on machines, on servers, in the cloud, and for people to interact. So it's a common platform for the industrial internet that we're building. And on top of that platform, we're going to build applications that create the value. Right? So Predix is a platform that we have been building, and we are building solutions on top of it. I would say the solutions are broadly of two kinds in the industrial space. We call them asset optimization and operations optimization. By asset optimization, we are looking at a crystal ball, if you will, a crystal ball that can look ahead into the future to predict failures, to get ahead of failures so that you can prevent them from happening. So the magic mantra here is, can you get to zero unplanned downtime? Zero unplanned downtime will create a lot of value. And that's by collecting all the data that we get, petabytes of data, understanding it, creating actionable insights with the help of offline analytics on potentially a Hadoop ecosystem to find those magic algorithms that get you ahead of the failures. Right? So you have zero unplanned downtime. That's asset optimization. Operations optimization, I look at it slightly differently. I think of it in terms of maximizing output. You have a system, you have a network, and I want to make that network run optimally. Can I get an extra 1% from my power plant? Can I run my rail network at 10% extra velocity? Can I run my rail network so that I get 10% extra fuel savings? Right? So what are the knobs that I need to turn so that I can do that? For that, I need to have real-time controls, closed-loop systems that are running with real-time data so that I'm tweaking the knobs so I get that extra performance. Okay? So that's operations optimization. So these are the broad categories, the two broad categories that we focus on in the industrial world. So now let me take you through a couple of examples here. This is what we call brilliant wind. Okay? So wind is a great source of energy, right? Wind is, the fuel is free, and if you can have a lot of wind turbines, wind farms producing a significant amount of power for the country, that's great. Wind comes with its challenges. The challenge is that it's intermittent, right, and the direction keeps changing. I would like to have a system where I can provide predictable power to the grid from a wind farm. How do I do that? And I want to do it, I want to provide predictable power, and I want to provide as much power as possible. So we're looking at battery storage coupled with wind turbines or wind farms so that you can provide predictable power. So at night, for example, you might be producing a lot of power, but there is nobody to consume it. So you store the power in a battery, and then during the daytime, as the wind fluctuates, you're able to use the battery to compensate, so you provide predictable power. But it's not just that. I want to provide the maximum amount of power. So how do I do that? As the wind direction keeps changing, I would like to move my turbines, orient the turbines in the direction of the wind, so I capture as much of the wind as possible. So I need to move my wind turbine. These are very big machines. The diameter of the the blades, comes to about 100 meters, the size of a soccer field. These are very, very large machines, and you have 40, 50, or 100 of them in a wind farm. So you want to move these big machines, orient them in the direction of the wind. And you want to turn the pitch of the blade so that you extract the maximum amount of value. But we can do something even more interesting. We could say, hey, you know what? But sometimes when the wind direction is in a particular way and the wind speeds are high, a wind turbine is in the wake of a wind turbine in the front. So that means the wind turbine here doesn't see as much power, as much wind, and it doesn't produce as much power. So can we change the control logic so that collectively the two wind turbines produce more power than just running everything very hot? Right? So that's a farm level control system to produce maximum amount of power. And then there are a few other things that we could do as well. So a combination of all these technologies needs to happen to produce the maximum amount of power at the same time being predictable. It requires harnessing the huge amount of data that's coming from the wind farm, terabytes of data a day, but also combining it with the deep domain expertise that's required. In order to be able to do this active control, you need to have an understanding of the wind flow field in real time, which requires a fair amount of physics, computational fluid dynamics that you need to run in real time on supercomputers potentially. Okay? And you need to combine that with the data to be able to turn those knobs that you need. So you turn the knobs, these are some of the knobs here, you might need to turn them to get that extra 2% or 3% power. Now if you get 2%, 3% extra power from a wind farm, as a wind farm operator, you're extremely happy. It just goes directly to your bottom line. Okay? You're not paying anything for the fuel. That's the power of the industrial internet, right? Combining your deep domain knowledge with the power of the massive data to get that extra 2% of output. Here's another example with aviation, aircraft engines. A single engine today, on a flight, a single engine produces about a terabyte of data a day with the sensors that we have. And it could produce much more. So now you have thousands of flights a day. So you're talking about petabytes of data a day. So if you take a particular engine family, you got most likely petabytes of data a day. Can we harness that? Can we understand that to do predictive maintenance? Can you see parts degrading over time? Can you figure out the root cause faster? It's a hard technical problem, and we are working on solutions to make that happen. We want to harness all this power, use massive compute that's required to be able to churn the data to extract the information. And if you do it with the right compute clusters and the right software technologies, like we are doing with what we call the industrial data lake, then you can turn around an app or turn around an answer in a very short period of time, something that is unimaginable even 10 years ago. Okay? Something that's unimaginable 10 years ago. But keep in mind that the amount of data is just going up even more. Going from engines to the entire airline. We have a joint venture with a company called, with Accenture, the company is called Teleris. This is about intelligent operations. It's really combining asset optimization with operations optimization. I want to predict when something is going wrong, and I want to get the actionable insights to come up with decisions so that my operations are running as optimal as possible. So here's an example. I have an APU, an auxiliary power unit, on the aircraft, and that's going down. Today what might happen is that I notice that it's bad. I keep the aircraft grounded for a few hours. It's going to cause a disruption, and I have to do a bunch of things with it. But if I could use my sensors and real-time logic to know that this thing is degrading weeks ahead, then I can plan this. I take my unplanned maintenance and convert it to a planned maintenance a few weeks ahead, so there is absolutely no disruption. Nobody even knows about it, right? The customers don't know about it at all. That's what we want to do. We want to completely avoid the disruption in these cases. But there are certain kinds of disruptions that you cannot avoid, like weather. So imagine there's a big weather disruption in a big hub. Hundreds or thousands of flights will get disrupted. You want to manage that a lot better. So if you know that a few hours ahead, and if you run your algorithms in a very short period of time to come up with the optimal decisions, you are able to take care of what we call recovery. You need to recover the flights so that they get to their a new desired destination by the end of the day so that the schedule for the next day is not changed at all. That's recovery of the aircraft. You need to recover the crew needs to get to a desired destination by the end of the night. And of course, you need to take care of the passengers. This costs airlines a huge amount of money. And we want to be able to address that, and that's what that's some of the things that we're working on. When you go back to the predictive prognostics on the APU, keep in mind that about 40% of airline delays are attributed to mechanical faults. We think there's a good chance that we should be able to come up with algorithms to predict those faults in advance so that you can take unplanned maintenance down to zero. Right? So I gave you 3 examples of case studies with wind, aircraft engines, and airline operations. We can do this across healthcare. You can do it across oil and gas, across the entire food chain in oil and gas. These are very, very large industries. The problems, therefore, that we are trying to tackle are very, very large. Of course, therefore, we work with partners. And recently we created something called the Industrial Internet Consortium with companies like AT&T, Intel, Cisco, and IBM. And what we like to do there is to get different people who want to participate in the industrial Internet of Things come together, create test benches so that they can see if their solutions or technologies can interoperate, right? And that will accelerate the entire adoption of this area. Over time, we'll help create standards related to the specific fields that we are interested in. So that's the Industrial Internet Consortium. We're also actively investing in several companies that you can look up. Pivotal is a strategic partnership that we have with EMC. But more recently, we announced a partnership with Frost Data Capital, where we're looking to create about 30 companies over 3 years, again, to harness the speed of startups. I'll be here for the rest of the day if you would like to talk about it. So where are we headed? I would like to conclude with this. We're clearly headed towards an era where we'll have brilliant software-defined machines. They will provide a lot of value by having zero unplanned downtime and optimized operations. As the number of these devices grows exponentially and becomes very large, these systems will need to become autonomous. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to handle those. But it's not just that. I would like you to think of your favorite machine. Close your eyes and think of your favorite machine. Think of your favorite machine. Now imagine that you had a supercomputer attached to that machine. Imagine that you had a petabyte of storage attached to that machine. And imagine that you had unlimited bandwidth at that machine. What will you do? That's the future that we are going towards. Probably not too far away in the future. So it's our job, therefore, and our opportunity to come up with these fabulous new services and solutions that we can create when we know that this kind of power is going to be at our disposal, with the machines that we like. That's what I would like to leave you with. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Narayanan, for that very interesting and dynamic session. We'd like to now present a small token of appreciation from our end.